Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Tactical Leader. Today is going to be a solo cast highlighting my takeaways from Chris Ryan, who you've heard from this past Monday, and we'll hear again this Friday on Tactical Friday. Before we begin, I want to remind you this show is brought to you by Nightly Productions. If you are ready to discover, embrace, and share your voice, head over to nightly.productions to find out more about how we can help you do that and then create the tactical content that delivers. Again, that's nightly.productions. My insights from Chris, I really had a great conversation with him. Obviously, he's a very influential individual, very highly connected, has some amazing things happening in his world where he's connecting some high net worth individuals. He's connecting some folks that are entrepreneurs, business owners, millionaires, people that are really driving a different type of training than a lot of us. And they're really focused on not just business, but also life. I think that's a really interesting aspect that we kind of unpacked quite a bit. It's really focused on the work-life balance that I think is, and he even said it himself, it seems like a fallacy. It seems like something that is awesome for hopes and dreams, but the reality of the situation is like it's impossible. Like what is a work-life balance? It's something nobody's really defined attached to it. Is it a 9 to 5 and then you go home and you're checked out of work and with your significant other, your family? In the police and military world, that was never a thing. That the possibility attached to that, obviously, when you're in somebody else's time. In the corporate world, that might be a little bit more. I've never spent a lot of time in the corporate world as a 9 to 5 employee, or the quote unquote 9 to 5. I know a lot of corporate folks are not 9 to 5, right? There's so much more that goes in beyond that. COVID might have shifted a lot of that for a lot of people in that landscape. But at the end of the day, like, is there truly ever a 9 to 5? I don't think that's quite feasible for a lot of us. And it's really interesting to me as we start unpacking this a little bit in the entrepreneurship space, in the business owner space. A lot of us kind of obviously work beyond that. I made a joke today. I was leaving my mastermind group and the group I have here in Atlanta. I was leaving where we were all congregating and just finished up our call. We had a great session. Um, and as I was leaving, I was on the elevator. The young lady who mentioned she's a business consultant for the supply chain world, and she really helps organizations in that piece of it to optimize difficult aspects of the supply chain world, which is terrible right now. And I made a joke about, um, hope you have a great weekend, or made a comment about hope you have a great weekend. And she's like, yeah, you too. I'm like, I wish I could. I work weekends. I kind of laughed it off, right? She's like, oh no, that's not fun. What do you do? And we started talking a little bit about business ownership and different pieces of where we don't necessarily get the luxury, right? If we're not working, we're not paying our bills. We don't get the A lot of us don't have the capability to completely disconnect and have that quote unquote balance, right? We might do admin tasks. Like for me, Sundays are usually my admin days. I kind of catch up on different things, make sure I'm prepped for the week. I'm ready to go. I know what content's being released this week, so I can be familiar with it. And it's the life I chose. It's the bet I made. Absolutely love it. Love the freedom it gives me, where if I do want to check out, I can work completely remote. I don't have to answer to somebody. I don't have to, well, besides clients, of course, but I don't have to submit a time off request. I don't have to do all those things, right? After being in government work for 12 years, it's one of those. I'm really happy to not have to go through the paperwork, the red tape, to simply go to the mountains for a weekend, right? That for me, that was a struggle for many years. So having the capability to kind of just step away if I really chose to, but I think that's the interesting part, is how many of us choose to do that? How many of us really step away? And that's a big piece of what Chris and I spoke about. It's a big piece of what GoBundance is as a whole. It's really fascinating to me because it goes beyond, like, my mastermind here in Atlanta. It's called Business Builders. We focus on building business, right? We're a lot of entrepreneurs, that 6-figure range, moving into the 7-figure range, trying to get the processes, trying to figure out efficiencies, trying to get consistent. I think that's the interesting piece in entrepreneurship. We all crave consistency, not security necessarily, because the Lord knows that's not really a realistic piece of the world, especially COVID. Um, And in the corporate world, there might be a little bit of job security or financial security. In the entrepreneurship world, there's an aspect attached to consistency. We want consistent revenue, consistent clients, consistency, projectable income, right? Recurring revenue. Those are so many things that we talk about in the business owner world, in the entrepreneurship world, that I think that's what we crave, right? Is that consistency. So it's fascinating as we start talking more with Chris about what GoBundance does, and having that mastermind feel attached to those mindset resets. I know I've talked a lot about my journey on the show and talking about how I take these mindset resets, go to the mountains, take the pup, journal, check out different aspects of reflection, self-awareness, try to mull over, really just get disconnect at the end of the day. The goal is to put the cell phone down, put the computer away, go up there, and check out, more or less, mentally reset and focus on how to improve and move forward. And GoBundance seems to do all the things, right? You're connecting with verified millionaires, verified high net worth individuals, people that they really do a lot of background and net worth on a lot of people attached to that, looking at matchmaking in a different capacity where it's really successful folks. And you go off on these adventures and these trips and these treks, and they have for men, for women, for couples, for children, the family aspect of it. It's really just fascinating. I think it's a big missing piece that a lot of us, and it's not something like I'm going to integrate into my mastermind. We go out on socials, but it's business, it's networking. It's something that my mastermind, we just wouldn't equip. So it's really a fascinating angle that GoBundance is taking, of helping you create that balance, helping you create those mindset resets within the business making, business building aspect and business relationship aspect that you're really driving home. And overall, it's a phenomenal, really phenomenal way to put a spin on what a mastermind is, or what it should be, and put a spin on what we should be doing and focusing on, and bringing family, friends, relationships back into the forefront, because so many of us push those onto the back burner as we start building these things, craving success, craving consistency. So I really appreciate that part of the conversation. I know an interesting part about what I talked with Chris off air about is this Friday. I want to delve into what GoBundance looks like. What does GoBundance actually do for people? It could be cool concept, cool idea, cool community, bunch of millionaires, awesome. But what does it actually pull away? And we're going to talk about that this Friday, where, how does it work? What does it look like? What's the value you see the individuals getting? And I can conceptualize myself. I can think about it. I can know what value I would get out of it. But I want to hear it from Chris, find out where that really goes for us. And a big piece of really being a podcaster, but a big piece of my life has been that we talked about on Monday, the insatiable curiosity. I'm super fascinated by ideas, super fascinated by the journey leaders have taken across their lives, so many different aspects. And that insatiable curiosity, I think, is a phenomenal aspect attached to entrepreneurship and business ownership that we should really double down on. Really be insatiably curious, ask those questions, get those answers, and really kind of drive forward into that next step, and ask what you have to ask. Be curious about those things. And that's really my big takeaways. Continue to be insatiably curious. If you're not, think about what that means to you. Look into it. Come back this Friday. We'll talk a little bit more about GoBundance. And overall, I hope y'all have a phenomenal week. Go crave some curiosity. And I look forward to catching y'all on Friday.